Welcome back. What I believe is happiness is the only thing that we are after. It's been centuries. Every philosopher, every scientist, and every you can say the people who are engaged and involved in this pursuit of happiness, they have been looking for it for quite a long time. And ultimately, there is goal in one. No matter how rich you become, how you can say how intellectual you become, but the only thing which you are aiming at is happiness. So this is something we are going to talk about. And happiness is not something which you can easily attain, because somewhere it is your mind, your psychology, right? uh, Many people say that once they get rich they will be happy. Others say that once they have achieved their goals they will be happy. Some people say that a certain person is there in my life, then I will be happy. And others say that if I become this and that, I will be happy. But when they have become and when they have achieved all these things which they are aiming at or they are hoping for, they also they find that the goal which they were going to achieve is eluding them, right? So this is all what we are going to talk about. We are going to talk about the happiness, right? How can people become happy? And there is a psychology behind each and everything, and what that psychology is, and how people can attain that psychology. Because this is our inherent nature. I mean, everybody wants to be happy. Why do we want to be happy? Because we were born with this psychology, but somewhere along the journey we lost that psychology, and that's why we have not been able to align ourselves and align our actions with that particular pursuit. And it's been eluding us throughout this journey. And what we find that we are nowhere when it comes to achieving this particular emotion called happiness. So we will be diving deeper into it. Across the setting, my friend, we are going to have a deep discussion on the same, and he will be shedding some light on it, and then we will go with the different questions which people generally have in their life, they face, and they want those questions to be answered in a very practical and very scientific way. Over to you.
Okay, good evening and good evening to everyone. Uh, the topic name is We Are Meant to Be Happy, right?
Yeah.
And before we go and delve into the constitutive part of this discussion, I think it's better to be first be a little bit familiarized with those nuances, especially of the topic, so that people could grasp it, right? And I think when we deal with a topic such as psychology, and when we deal with a topic such as happiness, sadness, I think we need to take uh, experience right from our own personal uh, conduct and our personal interactions, social interactions, including, because this enhances a lot of experiences. And when we grasp these things while watching it, observing it at a minute level, we then understand how uh, extensive it is in terms of meaning, in terms of its validity. And therefore, we realize that we really don't need to read books. We really don't need to understand people to understand, few things which are universally, acclaimed, acknowledged. It's not what I say. If you go and listen to those, you know, uh, highly evolved minds ever lived on this planet, or maybe you have read many books written by them, you will find one similar, or a common attribute among them is that they understood the life from their own personal experiences. And they did it to that extent where they uh, adequately summarized life in a more fascinating manner. Now, it's our opportunity, or I would also use the word choice,
Yeah.
that we want to accept it or leave it, especially by getting ourselves engaged in this mundane world, which leads us nowhere, just to grapple and besiege with anxiety and problems such as depression. So everything is something belonging to us, and the last decision is something that also belongs to us. Keeping these two things in our mind, we can initiate this journey forward, so that we could really learn a lot about this thing. Since the topic is we are meant to be happy, now what it means when we say we need happiness, we want this experience to be with us in a perpetual manner, it simply means, according to me, or I'm adding also some of information which I earned and got from the books, is that when a person, you know, uh, tries to know about, psychology. I mean, overall, if you see the surface part of it, you will see it's all a play that takes place on the mental level. What is sorrow? What is happiness? It is all you perceive right through your mental churning. There is no other way which actually process it for you. So this is all is happening right inside the right inside in your mental part, right?
Yeah.
Now, interesting part is this, which often people don't understand this, that even you go to read in Bhagavad Gita. I mean, Bhagavad Gita, extensively deals with this very topic, mind and intellect.
Yeah.
I mean, there are numerous and plenty of verses which significantly elaborate, especially on this matter, mind and intellect, and how it deals with your happiness and sorrow. So the thing which we need to understand at the psychological level, that since we are looking and striving for happiness, and we also conclude this, that happiness is something which is associated with our mental practice,
Yes.
but something which is not acceptable and accessible to all. Maybe people have miserably failed to understand that. That is, that our mind specifically is an object which is something has no mass, means it is a massless object, right?
Invisible, you can say.
Invisible and massless, both.
Yes, massless. Yeah.
Invisible and massless. And irony is, even after we know this, we try to tackle this particular aspect, happiness and mass, which is associated with the brain functioning.
Yeah.
We try to satisfy it, we try to meet the requirements of it by following some material lifestyle.
Yeah.
But when we deal with the material lifestyle is altogether a different.
Different thing. Yeah.
It's altogether a different thing. So, in summation, I will say only one thing, that both psychology and science deal with the different aspects. And since we are dealing with this topic, that we are meant to be happy, we need to understand that happiness is something which originates from its primordial source,
Yeah.
and that is its mind, that mental plane, right? And we need to understand it. We need to delve into this in order to understand it at the minute level, so that we could learn a lot about it and we could really pursue this lifestyle, which is much similar to uh, be like a blissful state of mind. Over to you.
And what I think you are alluding at one, alluding to, alluding to this particular thing, that a brain and our mind both are two different entities, and
Right.
generally we are desiring for different things. Like we are desiring for fame, we are desiring for money, we are desiring for having a luxurious life. So these all desires, desires emanate from our brain. That is,
Right.
that is different. And these qualities like joy, these traits, joy, being happy, and being blissed out, these are the traits of our heart. I mean, and when we are looking for all these things like fame and all, so our the primary source, which is the inherent qualities like being happy and all, they are somewhere in contrast, or you can somewhere, they are not actually matching. And
Right,
when this happens, we are likely to be unhappy, we are likely to
right,
be we are likely to fail somewhere in life, because
right,
we are going astray, we are going
right,
opposite for what our true nature is. And that's why we all battle with this eluding emotion that is called happiness, right? So and I read about this particular thing that if we lose our roots, I mean, we are not rooted in our this is what we call, this is a true nature. Actually, we somewhere digress from this our true nature, we are likely to have problems. For example, if we take water, for example. So water's true nature is to flow. This is the
right,
psychology of water. But what if it comes into contact with the different external forces, like external influences, like if you put it into the refrigerator, it'll then
right,
change into a different shape, it'll change its shape, it'll turn into ice. And
right,
but if you again heat it, then it'll again melt and it'll come into its true nature. So what here, we should be taking one lesson from it, that water doesn't loses its it's natural, or you can say it's a root. But somewhere, we have lost that root, we have separated ourselves from that our true nature. Our true nature is to be happy. And how do we lose this true nature of ours? Because somewhere we are highly influenced by external factors, like
right.
somebody buys a car, when somebody gets successful, when somebody is talking about and this and that, somewhere we get affected by that. And this particular influence of these external forces um, convert, they somewhere affect us, and then we get separated from the true nature of ours, that is to be happy. And when this happens, then this leaves us unhappy and dejected, and somewhere we are highly despondent, right? So this is what is really important. I want you to talk a little more about this mind and brain functioning. I mean, how people can truly understand the psychology of brain and mind, because these are two different entities. And if we don't establish some connection, or if they are going against each other, then somewhere they'll not be letting us be happy, they'll not let us reach our highest potential. So I want you to talk more about it.
Okay, since you raised a very valid point that every particular object has its own natural psychology, in which you took an example of water.
Yeah,
So the natural psychology of water is flowing.
yeah,
So it keeps on flowing, right? But this natural psychology gets affected only when some external pressure or influence exerted on it,
yeah,
right? In which we can have a number of examples, like we can put some water in the container and see the nature. So it all be turning out to something else, right?
yeah.
But one thing which is also true in this particular, uh, you know, particular experiment, that the nature of the water uh, will continue to be same.
Same.
However, it is influenced due to some external forces,
Yeah,
but at the end of the day, it has to be coming back to its natural position.
yeah. When it
Now,
is
how we
heated,
could relate it?
it when it is
Yes,
heated, it just starts coming back
steeping,
into the same from, yeah, that is,
obviously.
yeah,
Now, now when we compare and relate it to our mind, see, we are no less than an object, right?
yeah,
So, water, human beings, and other forms of creature, I mean, from the scientific standpoint, are no less than object. Even bodies of human are put to experiments in order to grasp. more anatomical understanding,
Yes.
as usually happens mostly that when any health crisis strikes, it is human body which which is almost put to these experiments
That
for the
undergoes
purpose of
experiments. Yeah.
obviously for the purpose of finding validity of particular vaccination, right? Many
Yeah.
things happen, and we are considered to be an apparatus mostly.
Yes.
Now, the thing which is I think even more interesting, since we accept this fact that we are object, now we have to understand our psychology. Since we have dealt this very thing right in the beginning, that every object had its natural psychology, and so is ours. Now, this is up to us how we could understand that. Now, philosophies and philosophers are really expert. They are master on creating these kind of ideas, and they do it practically because the examples they put are very fascinating. It actually gives people a valid reason for why they should adopt it and
Mm.
practice in their mundane life.
Yeah.
So even the philosopher comes in this particular discussion and will have a number of numerous examples why they should treat this particular psychology as a natural psychology of human. I have read one book in which it was extensively dealing with one particular idea that when a child takes birth, right from its birth, uh, the child could be seen maintaining a great posture of jubilation, which
Yeah. They're
means
always
that
jubilant.
obviously, which simply means that he is in ecstatic state of mind, in a more blissful state of mind. Blissful is the highest term
Yeah.
of choice, right? So he is in that state. Now, many philosophers conclude it as its natural psychology
Yes.
because the time when we take birth, things which come along with us as our intrinsic part are said to be our innate features, and that innate feature is your natural psychology.
Yes.
So when we learn it through the disposition, this joyous disposition of the child, one can easily conclude it that yes, our natural psychology is to be living in a blissful state of mind, to be enjoying, to be in a happiness all the time. This is our natural psychology. Now, usually what happens with most of the objects that they face external influences, and due to external pressure they change their psychology, as what we have learned through the water example, right? The same thing is applicable to human beings. How? Because when we are faced with certain external influences and pressure, we are meant to be smashed by numerous ideas or numerous reactions, in other words, if I can say, which now and then affects our mental state. For example, a person is living in his ecstatic state of life or a mood, and one day he finds that his neighbor has got some new bungalow, or has
The
bought
new car.
one one new car. Now, in this case, how this man is going to be affected? I mean, many people are possibly going to be affected. Now,
Yeah.
the only reason for this, particular kind of effect is the reaction of the mind. Our mind, if I say it in a simple term, that our mind is always on the way of doing and making reactions to everything that it encounters,
Yes.
and that what it makes it even more uncomfortable, that it what makes it even more like an hydrogen atom. I mean, a
Yes.
hydrogen atom basically is said to be the
Highly reactive. Yeah.
highest reactive, atom, which is its natural agents, right? In the same way, our mind continues to react with things. Now, the thing which we need to understand and why we need to be, why we are meant to be, happy, is that our mind. takes birth, and we as a person takes birth with this natural psychology, that is happiness. But since we continue to react to events that we encounter, we actually are faced with number of instances as pressure to us, which completely turn our psychology into something else. And thereafter, we become altogether a different personality. We are almost, you know, living in negation all the time by retorting and disregarding the natural psychology and ending up with full of miseries. So,
You talked about one thing that sometimes what happens, we see a neighbor buying a new car and that's gonna affect us. And at
right,
times it has also been seen that you may have some good, you can say, control over your mind, but there are
right,
other people in your family who are going to get affected. For example, suppose your spouse is there and
right, right,
you haven't gotten affected, but your spouse is there and she'll
right,
keep
right, right,
forcing you, what the hell are you doing? See, look
right,
at
right,
neighbors, they have bought a new car, and what about you? You are not at all progressing in a life. You're not
right.
giving me those comforts which I'm supposed to be enjoying. So
Yeah,
this can also, if you're not getting affected, people in your family are getting affected, and they will somewhere be, causing you to
right.
think that way, that you should also be enjoying all these things, right? So
Right.
this is also there.
In
Yeah,
fact, in this particular matter, wife can also be considered as an external object, an
yeah.
influencing agent,
She'll
right?
keep
And yes,
applying that particular, force on you to make you take, to force you to take some action.
every single, in my opinion, every single object or every single thing which directly or indirectly influences us is categorized as an influencing agent. Now, it could be either a wife or a spouse, it could be anything else, but it is purely an external matter, especially when we understand it from the science point of view or for us from a scientific point of view. So, the thing which we need to understand, which is really important, that we try to regulate our mind in such a way that we must try harder to, I think, protect ourselves from such influences by maintaining a high degree of neutrality. And it is all a matter of practice, how we can do practice a lot. So that's what we can do in this particular matter. Right.
One thing I want to ask you, because we talked about this natural psychology, right, of ours.
Right.
Now let make it, very simple. Actually, I want people to grasp it. I want people to know it fully, so that they can apply the things which we are talking about. They can apply all those, important things, all those, we are talking about different thoughts and ideas. They can get benefited if we talk about that in a very simpler way. So what do you think this natural psychology is? What I believe is, if we talk about natural psychology, this includes certain aspects like innate contentment. I mean, how content you are from within, right? And if you're very content, very satisfied, right in your heart, then I think that natural forces are not going to affect you that much.
Hmm.
Other thing, what I believe is comes our emotional regulation.
Right.
How emotionally regulated we are. If we are somewhere, irregular in terms of emotions, then we are going to get affected, by simple things that are happening in life. Because we know that we hardly have, control over the things which are happening outside our control, right?
Hmm.
So what we can do is that we should be having very good control over our emotions. We need to regulate those emotions, and if we have this regulate no we can regulate these emotions. I think external forces are not going to affect us that much, right?
Right.
And I think we should be aligning ourselves with the nature as well.
Right.
So if this alignment is there, then we will also be happy. So
Right.
these are the parts of our natural psychology. And one more thing comes, that is minimalism. We talked about in our previous videos that
Right.
this minimalism is going to make you super happy, I would say,
Right.
because
Right.
somewhere we also talked about Socrates, in which he says that there are so many things in life we can do without, right?
Right.
And if we have this kind of mentality, this is which is actually our base,
Hmm.
basic and I would say fundamental quality, fundamental psychology and inherent psychology, then I think it's going to be quite easy for us
Mm,
to stay composed
mm,
and balanced in a life, right?
mm.
So I want you to elaborate more on these points which I've just talked about so that people can easily grasp it.
Okay, let's begin with the very first question. Uh, Talking about natural psychology in a more simplified version.
Yeah.
Uh, See, mostly scientists do one thing, especially when they have such encounters pertaining to psychological understanding. They often observe things around them very keenly, and they compile the study, and then they keep observing it for doing little bit change in it so that it could be a more better version. And how do they do that? They keenly observe the entire environment. So in environment, it includes your sun, our earth, trees around us, water, everything. So tomorrow morning when you get up, and this is for all our audience, try observing things around them and try to do this in a way where you could capture those subtle points. Because see, we humans are well engaged in our own mundane reasoning, and which is keeping us busy for no reason. So we really don't have much time to go out and to deal with these, you know, natural or nature related activities. But
And
it's
reasoning is somewhere influenced and somewhere it's hybrid. It is not only ours. Reasoning somewhere our reasoning we obtain from other people. When you might have seen in your life, you might have experienced other people being influenced by others. That if they see somebody and who is in a better position than them, so sometimes what happens, they think that the person is doing and the person is saying that is the correct thing because they are
this is
somewhere superior
this
to
is this
them.
this is actually a problem. This is what exactly the main problem which we fail to understand miserably time and again. Any person says anything to us and we get influenced for no reasons. The most ironical thing in this is that we not only get influenced, but we blindly support that particular thing or an event.
Yes.
And it actually happens on both part. If someone had said something wrong to us, we start reacting to that thing,
Yes.
which simply means that we have no control on us, on our psychology. Rather, we are, taking or giving this particular control to the hands of other.
Yes.
This is our weakness. People who have realized this weakness, they have really started working hard on it, since this particular thing is not can be done overnight. It needs an immense practice of
Practice.
years,
Yes.
right? So if someone at least starts practice, within few months there could be some well
Noticeable
manifested
changes
results.
can be noticeable changes
Eh,
can be realized.
Obviously, it takes nothing but a personal practice, which really turns things right in your favor. A small practice on a day can really make a big difference for the long run. It happens. So getting back to the point, what I was saying is that if we just start observing the environment and try learning things from these natural activities. For example, you can do anything to the sun. The sun will never cease to radiate its heat to us. You can curse it, you can do all evil things to it.
Because
Through your-
that is its psychology.
it is its psychology. It is its natural form. It is not going to deprive it of this particular activity. It means it is not going to drift itself away from it at any cost.
Yeah.
However, some planetary motions, sometimes what happened that due to some displacement of planetary a planet system, these things may occur. Now that is
Yeah.
not in our control, right? For example, it is said about human dinosaurs that there might have been some displacement of planetary system, and therefore that particular era got completely annihilated just because of a sudden change in the climate or the temperature. and
Mm.
which was perhaps
Yeah.
not suitable to the development or to the birth of these dinosaurs.
They fail to adapt themselves to the
obviously
surroundings.
they
Mm.
obviously they failed to adapt themselves to the changed climate.
Changes. Yes.
Same thing would happen and can happen with us too in some other years. Who knows about it?
Yeah.
The entire planet. But whatever is possible right now, or what is accessible to us that we can understand it through their natural activities. You just go and sit nearby a tree, a green tree, and just observe it keenly, how it functions, how it is continuously serving you oxygen. Even you can start cutting it, it won't say anything to you, rather perform its natural function, and that is to serve other,
Yes.
right? So this is basically a natural psychology of every object. So our natural psychology is to be happy. In fact, you meet any random person and ask him one just this simple question, what he wants to be in his life and what he wants to get and attain in his life. He may reply you endlessly, and he may give you a number of responses, but
But the
all these
ultimate one
responses,
will be to be happy.
ultimate one, the only one would be leading to this very point of happiness. So for example, I am so much excited to get my new car in next 2 3 months. So this car and the purchasing as an action is not exactly which I'm worried and concerned about, and I'm excited about. What I'm excited about, that I'm going to possess one new car, right?
And
And
that
that
is
is,
going to give some happiness.
yes. Now this is basically a human belief. Now how true we are on this, I think we ultimately know that. For example, many people, even it might have been your experience too, that you were be longing for something,
Yeah.
and once you got that, you perhaps might have lost all your interest in that particular thing. For example, at times when I was longing for one bullet Royal Enfield, trust me, in 2011 and 12, and then I got it in 2013 and 14. I mean, I can't say it would be more than, I mean, 1 year. Perhaps after I purchased that bike, my all interest and passion for the bike was almost dull. It was all dissipated. I really don't know. So then I never, did a little bit introspection. I mean, what happened to my happiness, which I was looking for, and
Yeah.
that too must be in a perpetual state,
You
but
thought
it
that
only
it is going
sustained.
to be long lasting.
Yes, long lasting, but it only sustained for a year. What about it? I never did, but now I started realizing it. Now I started observing this. Therefore, I say this must be a part of practice for everyone. I think this really doesn't require you to go and purchase any book from your nearby, book vendor. You just put yourself to the experiment and learn from it. You will get to know what natural psychology is, how it works. And once you understand it, trust me, and after you understand it, you put it yourself to a practice, a rigorous practice on a routine basis. Within months or a year, you will see yourself becoming altogether a different personality. It happens with many people. Many people have got this very state of mind. However, we really don't know because only a few people are reluctantly making themselves available to public place so that we could listen to them. But it's a large section of people who have got this state of life or state of mind, but they are unwilling to present themselves in public because they are completely satisfied in themselves.
Yeah.
They are not even getting bothered about presenting themselves, projecting themselves in public to actually show how happy they are, because in them a new definition has been already visited of
Yes.
happiness, and which only deals with them and confined to them. So for them, they are not searching for any sort of public platform such as Facebook, where they need to display on a routine basis that I have got this, I have cooked this, and
Hmm.
I went there and here. This is not going
Yeah.
to be a part of the life.
So these people have realized that nothing is going to be there forever. What if they find their happiness in themselves and the things they're doing, I think this is going to be the life changing experience for them. I've seen that certain people, they are so much into exploring
Right,
themselves more and more, and they, when they find themselves to be surrounded by people, I think they somewhere lose that connect with they have established with themselves, and as a result they find themselves to be very uncomfortable among those people, and they just want to leave that place and be with themselves as soon as possible. So
right,
this is called that they have realized that this is something which gives them permanent happiness, right?
right.
Before I start, discuss something new, I would love to share one experience from my life that when I was quite worried about my future, that what would I do and what I should be doing so that I could get happiness. You just believe me when I started writing, because this is somewhere which this is something which makes me truly happy. I found that writing and speaking and sharing and learning from other people, this is the only thing which gives me immense happiness. And trust me, I don't really talk a lot, I don't really go out, I don't really meet different people. I just want to learn from other people. I just want to talk something productive, and I just want to write and share my experiences. And this is something which really gives me a lot of happiness. I'm not worried about how much I'm gonna make. I'm not worried about where I will find myself 5 years from now.
Right,
I don't really give it a damn, because what I think that if something which is giving you true happiness, that's the only thing you need to do, right? And this is your true psychology, right? And many people talk about James, why I'm in this profession, because it was not actually earlier. I belong to a different field, but just accidentally
right,
came here and I started doing this. But I found that the only thing which gives me happiness is to be sharing. And you also know that we are of the same kind,
right,
in some respects, because we were disconnected for quite some time, and
right, right,
this purpose which we share in common brought us together, and now we
right,
are
right,
doing these videos, right?
right.
Next thing which I want to ask you and I want to discuss with you is what's the difference between brain and this what's the difference between psychology and science? Because somewhere these are two different things, and people must know, and if they can know it and they can truly practice it, I
Right.
think they will find that they are really experiencing some positive changing taking place, and they have become a better version of themselves, right?
Right, right.
So first, let's talk about what science is and what psychology is, and then we will be discussing it in detail.
Few days back, I had a conversation with one of my friends, and he is an avid reader of scriptures, holy books, and he really got upset with one of my points, which I addressed towards Bhagavad Gita, in which I said that Bhagavad Gita is less scripture, more scientific. And I was not wrong in my way of stating that fact because I believe it is more a scientific book. And regardless of the religion's content that is a part of that particular book, people of across the section could come
Anybody can
and
read
read
that,
that book.
because it's not
Yes.
related to one particular religion.
My this particular, statement was taken more
Otherwise,
as an deplorable comment
okay.
or a derogatory, not derogatory, but according to him, it was a little disrespect and disregarding. Because since I chose the book to be known and acknowledged more as a scientific than a scripture, then he said, if you say it is a scientific book, which I don't believe in, then you need to prove this. And thereafter, I delved with the subject a lot, very deeply. So then, few things could be said, especially in this, to precisely establish this very relationship as to how science or Bhagavad Gita could be understood as a science or a scientific work. And for this, we need to understand some essentials or attributes of science. Because when we try and have a discussion on science, we need to understand about the nature of objects which are the dealing subject of science.
Yes.
So, in other words, I can say we need to first deal with all those attributes of objects on which scientific research are carried out. So, in the line, we can queue up first that an object must be, there must be an object first, the essential. The second particular essential attribute of it is that object must have some mass, right? Third, it could be visible and invisible. Fourth, it could be, a part of this planet or located in some part of the universe. Fifth, important, it may or may not be a subject of utility for the scientists who are carrying out this scientific observation or a study on that object.
Mm.
Now, if you find all these four or five things, or five essentials, associated and affiliated with any object, you can right away, declare that object as a study, as a worth studying subject, especially for the scientific reasons. Now, now then we understand these nature of science, and in fact, this is what science is all about. We can also, describe science in a way that science is nothing but a study of object.
Yeah.
That object must have mass. That's all we have to remember. And
That leads us to some conclusion.
right, right. This is all we have to understand about it. Now, apart from this, we can say many things, but these are the foundational understanding of science.
Yeah.
Now, anything you encounter in your life is probably an object, right? Now, for verifying it, whether it's an object for the purpose of scientific study or not, we need to establish those four or five connections as we established earlier. And if we found that, we can successfully declare it as an object for scientific study.
Yeah.
The same thing is applicable in Bhagavad Gita too, right? So since we are getting back to the point, I'm not delving this particular, into the Bhagavad Gita concept because this is altogether a different one. We will have a discussion some other time on some other time. But since you have asked me the difference between science and psychology,
Psychology. Yeah.
science we have already discussed. Now we move to the psychology.
Psychology. Yes.
Psychology is purely a different, matter or a different subject. You
It's all
can say
about
from the
emotions.
scientist. Yes. What is psychology? In fact, we dealt with it earlier. Psychology is nothing but a
Mm.
mental churning.
Yes.
What happens, especially on your mental level, is all what associated and is considered to be precisely as psychology.
Yes.
Since we also could know through the essentials of object that an object must have mass, so it is really easy for anyone that emotions and feelings have no mass, right? How we can have even this measurement ability to do the measurement of what weightage this emotions and feelings carry, right? In fact, if you read one section of the Bhagavad Gita in which this is a little description that mostly Sankhya Yoga, deals with, atom understanding, knowledge of atom. It also includes one that is spiritual atom. The spiritual atom is actually described as 1,000 part of the tip of the hair, which means
Hmm.
it is invisible completely,
Yes.
and it is invisible and it is also massless, formless. The same thing is applicable here. Our emotions, feelings are purely massless, and therefore it is not a subject of science.
Invisible. Right.
Yes, invisible too.
So they're very subjective. They have no object reality.
There is no objective reality. I
Yeah.
mean, I don't know. I mean, I don't. I mean, by the time and so far inventions we have made, and the extent we have reached, especially to that advanced level of science, I think nothing even closer we have gone to this very understanding of feelings and emotions as some object carrying a little bit weightage or mass. I think I haven't gone through any experiment so far. Even a scientist hasn't done so, which is claiming that our emotions and feeling have this mass. If it were, definitely it would have been the first priority as a subject for discussion for the scientist, but they have never done that, and therefore they kept dealing with this material values and thrusting this material values, especially onto this, cognizant, mental point, that yes, by pursuing this you can have happiness, by purchasing this material object you can have or feel, happy. These things are really contradicting in itself. In simple words, what I can say, I think this is very much accessible to all. On the one hand, you are dealing with your happiness, which is altogether a matter of psychology.
Yeah.
And on the other hand, we are foolishly or foolhardily, what we are doing, we are trying to meet the requirements of this emotions or feeling through material object. Both are contradicting in nature, and therefore no material value can provide you happiness.
Yes.
So it is absolutely futile to even look for material as a source of happiness. So people who do much engagement into their earning professions, and they really do their pecuniary businesses a lot, and they are wasting their life or spending their life whatsoever it is in this particular field, nothing is there to give them, happiness. One example I'll give there to some my to give a summation, or to give a summation. My point is that mostly developed countries are rich and wealthy, and these are the same countries where you will find people with mental issues in
Mental
a
issues,
very
yes.
large number. I mean, nothing bigger as an example could be there to support this very idea. Over to you.
You want to say that we've seen many people and they are damn rich in terms of, and they
Yeah,
have become very successful, but they find it difficult to fall asleep because they have got so many, worries on their head, right?
right,
This kind of materialistic lifestyle has led them to this particular kind of state, and they are having to take the sleeping pills to fall
right,
asleep, right? So
yeah, yeah,
shows that somewhere we are. And not in the right direction. So if happiness is our pursuit, then we should be thinking it again, and we should be we should be trying to reach the root cause of this kind of state of our mind. And
right,
when we have reached that particular we have reached this root, we will come up with this conclusion that we should never be trading happiness for the
right,
materialistic values,
absolutely.
because that is not going to lead you to happiness,
Hmm.
right? The next thing which I think is more important or equally important to talk about is, do you think that study of the natural psychology lead to perpetual happiness?
Okay, this is quite probable. And why I say it, because it has that room, it has that possibility. Scientifically, it is proven. Scientifically, it is proven first that your material gain and profits are not a subject that could really provide you happiness at all. It could, but only for the fleeting moments, for the
Fleeting
transient
moments,
moment,
yes.
right? But we are talking about happiness with a
Perpetual
perpetual,
happiness,
a
perpetual
perpetual
happiness.
happiness, right? Now, therefore, we need to understand the psychology first. Now, let's not even go into the scientific term more and talk on the surface of it, just by adopting one particular sentence. Since everything is governed by psychology, everything is psychology, right? It is, well, a psychological proven thing, right? Or scientifically proven thing. You keep having one thought in your life for some period of time, you will see and find those similar things or the traits you will start developing. It could be anything,
Yeah.
because our body reacts to our thought process. What is our thought process? The bestest scientific example of it is, which is basically today's concern right now. Many people started having bodily issues and physical issues. They have their digestion problem. Now you can ask any psychological expert, or a psychology expert, or a psychologist. He will say one thing, that thoughts in your mind are well interlinked with your intestines,
Yes.
especially in your abdomen. The thought you carry in your mind and its nature will decide the route of your digestive system and how it is going to be. So, therefore, it is very well suggested. Always try to have positive thoughts. Why do people men often say keep having positive thoughts? and keep practicing, positive, uh, things in your life. Be always optimistic. These are not just sayings. These are well proven strategies. The problem with people, they really don't take these strategies seriously. And even if they take it seriously, they don't put it in a long practice. They want an overnight result, which is not possible.
Yeah, that is
It
not
is
possible.
it is not possible. It is a practice which needs to be sustained for entire life. It is a possible thing that yes, you might not get 100% results, but it is 100% possible that you are going to be better right from your previous state, and in this way you can further improve on all fronts: physical, mental, everything. So these are things which are needed to be properly uh, you know uh, delivered and transported to people. Psychological psychologist, Sigmund Freud has once said beautifully, we are uh, environmental product more than product of genes.
Yeah, correct.
Right, so we may have some ancestral legacy in our genes, okay, but your environmental factors through or under which you are brought up have more influence on you than anything else. So it is really important that we need to understand. And since we are talking about how this natural psychology can really help us to enjoy this perpetual state of happiness, only one statement we have to practice a lot: that our natural tendency is to be happy. This is our natural tendency.
Yes.
I don't think people will find any problem in accepting this fact. In fact, even if it is not proven, let's say for instance, it is not proven, it needs more study for its verification and certification. I ask, what is the need of even questioning the validity of it, which is itself a positive statement? And when we all know that every positive things which we consume, regardless of its verification, it is there to prove, or it is there to prove that particular thing, or establish that particular thing for which it is known. So it is a positive statement itself. We don't need to go for its verification and certification. We need to practice it. And we have already understood it through many examples, through the example of child, through the example of water. Why can't we digest this particular thing? What once
Yes.
we digest this, trust me, we will see immense you know transformation in ourselves on day to day life, just by adopting and well imbibing this statement that our natural psychology is to be happy. One thing which I add to this as an example: you will stop reacting to things once you practice this statement. And once you stop reacting to things, it is very probable that you will start living life with a high degree of serenity and tranquility.
Yeah.
Because if there is something which is causing much turmoil and instability in our life, is the too much interaction through reaction to the things as an event happening before us.
Yes.
When we see someone is getting richer, we get affected. When someone see reaching to some higher position, getting some bigger social status or higher social status, we get affected. Some people may or may not have some interconnection with us, but just because of he has been praised and acknowledged more, we start getting affected. This affect is actually a result of a reaction. Now we have two choices: whether to stop being affected, which I think is probably very difficult for people. This is also this it is not a natural psychology though, but it has been a cultivated psychology which we have
Yeah.
it we which we have practiced for long years. So it
Yes.
has been infused in us, as it has been our permanent psychology or
We
a
have
natural
also
psychology.
inherited this. from our parents, from other people.
Therefore, Sigmund Freud's statement is proven well this, that we are the product of natural environment, then the genes,
Yeah.
right? So this is so easy, and I don't think why people find it. I mean, I have started practicing it a lot, and trust me, it really. I mean, second important thing, I think often it is not discussed in the public. In the name of motivation, what we are, consumed, or we are forced to consume, is that we can do this, we can do that, and regardless of the fact that we may not have that courage. See, not everyone is courageous,
Yes.
not everyone is brave. People are brought up in the different environments, as we have already discussed, and these
This
psychologists
environment
have
plays a big role.
obviously. Now what happens with those vulnerable minds who, right from their vulnerable environments, go out in the public and the competitive world, and they are exposed to these kind of motivational, ideas that you can do this and you can do that. What is going to be there with them as a result, as a consequences of that? They are going to face a very hardship in their life, a very troublesome period in their life, because they are going and thoroughly opposite to their natural psychology. They are forcing themselves to be pretending in a way which is not their natural psychology,
Yeah,
because their
and this
environment.
will shatter their confidence. Why? Because they are told that they can do anything, and once they start trying to do that and they fail, they will come to the conclusion that we are good for nothing, and this is going to smash and shatter their whole confidence which they had.
This usually happens, and you rightly said. And how do we know this? Through the next morning headline: 17-year-old boy
Yeah.
suicide or committed suicide, for he
Yeah.
was for he was not able to handle the pressure. So he willingly or unwillingly got enrolled in this particular competition, but he finally succumbed to that.
Yes.
So now, how beautiful this statement is then, that our natural psychology is happiness, which means we have to accept certain things which are associated with this. Now, one thing can be done. Many people will then ask us, if this is our psychology and someone is not brave by nature, right from their birth, does it mean that he is not supposed to hard work in their life by just admitting this fact that he is not courageous enough, or he's not brave enough, or he's not intelligent enough? No. Then there comes a thing, that is that we need to put on a track in such a way which is natural, and which is
And
not at all
realistic,
influence,
realistic.
realistic, and which is not a result of influence of anything.
Yes.
Now, if we do this in this way, there is a possibility of someone becoming a successful person. Maybe it could be a time consuming process or time taking process, but this is for sure that yes, he will touch the heights in his career. According to him, according to his lifestyle and the environment, he will be having and attaining that particular state of success. It may not be a success for many people, but for him as an individual, it could be a great success. And that what life it is.
Yes. And I'm not going to be very bookish. I'm not going to be very motivational in whatever I'm going to say. Don't you think that this, the time which we are spending together, your
Hmm.
profession is different, my profession is different, but when we come together and we have got one goal, we have got one purpose, that we just want to share, we just want to learn from
Right?
each other. And now you would find that this is the bestest part of a whole day, right? So why it is so?
Right.
Because have now concluded that this is
Right.
our psychology, and this is what we love to do, and we
Right.
are not going to copy anybody, we are not going to imitate anybody. We don't say that someone is such a famous personality in this particular field, and we would not love to have these kind of videos, because we are not going to stand a chance in front of them. We start thinking that way, I think we will never be able to do this, and we'll never enjoy this conversation. We
Right.
enjoy because we have no conditions, we have no I would say we have no expectations, we have no
Right.
big dreams which we
Right.
are imposing on ourselves, right?
Right.
And that's why we are able to enjoy. So this is what you can say we have summed up.
Yeah.
In a nutshell, we can say that if we know our true nature, I don't think that you should be comparing with people because there is no parity, as we have talked a lot about
Right.
things in the previous videos. So when this comes into play, I mean, this comparison comes into play, I think this never leaves you happy.
Right.
Whereas you have to be happy, right? This is a
Right.
birthright because this is what a true nature is. So why
Right.
not living a true nature? Why we are just wearing so many masks and we wanna
Yes.
prove people that we are this and that we are not what you're looking at.
Mm.
Look at what we are. Why we are going to change our identity? There is no need. I think
Mm.
must have seen many people.
Mm.
For example, if Virat Kohli, who is
Mm.
actually a wonder kid, I would say,
Mm.
but he starts playing like Sachin Tendulkar,
Mm.
writing he would fail miserably, right?
Right.
Because somewhere he's not, he hasn't accepted his own identity, which is quite unique. We are unique because we have been created by that Almighty, and we are unique. That's why we should not be copying. We should not be
Right.
expecting, or we should not be, and you can say we should not be trying to be like others because that is going to snatch the whole happiness away from us, right?
Right.
So we should understand this fact. We don't need to,
Did,
as you
did
talked
you did,
about.
did you hear his latest statement while he was being interviewed? He said, when he was asked, "How do you feel being a player crossing the mark of 5100?" Then he said, so simply and so gracefully. I mean, what I can say in my way, but it was so modest. A personality like him, who deserves to be showing and flaunting all sorts of tantrums, but he never did. He said this. He never even thought of this. Even today, when he comes on the ground playing against a team, he has only one idea: how he can make the most out of his present time and how he could engage himself most in that particular activity to reap the best result of it. And that is what his overall journey so far. He has never got bothered about hundreds. He has not got bothered about. In fact, he accepted this. He never thought of reaching to this milestone created by Sachin Tendulkar, the famous record of 50 hundreds, one day international 100.
Yeah.
He actually, so he never thought so. In fact, many people say he is just like lying, and he's like dissembling things because just because of he has reached to that pinnacle of his career. But if you go and check his lifestyle, he's so dedicated. He hasn't consumed chole bhature for last 5 to 10 years. Would you believe
He
that?
also switched to vegetarian diet when he realized
When he
how
has some problem.
how important it is to
Yes.
stay agile, stay so healthy. He
Right.
switched that, right?
He switched.
And one more important thing I would love to say is that whatever I'm telling, I haven't been paid by that personality, right? So that I should be praising him.
Hmm.
I'm not talking about to him because he has amassed so much wealth. I'm not
Hmm.
talking about because he has won so many games and he has he is considered to be the best wicket keeper ever,
Right.
especially in India. I'm talking about MS Dhoni. Why I love that person because the kind of philosophy he's got, the kind
Right.
of behavior he's got. I just love person for what he or she is, not for what they are famous for.
Right.
One day I was listening to his speeches because he's such a good speaker. So I often listen to him. He says to all the students who were listening to him that no matter where you have reached, but you should never forget your roots, right?
Right.
You should never forget where you come from because that's what you should be keeping yourself grounded, and that's the only quality of yours which will always keep you high, right? So this is what he says, and we've seen that no wicket keeper is as good as MS Dhoni. But why? Because he has practiced so hard that he can hit the stumps no matter where he's looking at.
Right. Right. Right.
He can do, and he does everything with lightning speed. This doesn't come easy. person has to perspire, they have to
Right,
go
right.
through difficult times. And that's why I always say that learn from people, not just because they are famous for because they are celebrity now, they have amassed a lot of wealth, or they you can say they are have maintaining so many cars. I'm not saying this, but learn from the personality of people, because he has never said anything which is
Right,
hitting the headlines.
right,
He
right,
never
right.
comes in the limelight just because of he says this and that, that is not at all acceptable. So I always go with people who are good, as far as their behavior is concerned, their nature is concerned, because that's the most important thing, and that's what can teach you a lot.
I think these people are very well aware of some very fundamental concepts of Bhagavad Gita. So
Yeah,
you talked about Virat Kohli. Never be forgetful about your roots from where you come, right? The
yeah.
same thing, in other words, is written and demonstrated in one of the slokas of Bhagavad Gita, sloka 2.47. The
Mm-hmm.
third point, which actually reveals one thing: even if you do something bigger in your life, never take a pride in yourself being as a doer.
Yeah,
Correlated and related to this very statement, which means, okay, you are not being forgetful about your roots, it's okay, but never consider yourself as a doer. So you are not taking a pride of what you have done, which means you are maintaining a great equipoise, which
yeah.
means you are not
And
going
you
to
are
be
practicing
affected.
surrender, complete surrender.
Complete surrender. So see how correlated these all are things, and therefore, in fact, Virat Kohli is highly spiritual these days. He is making visits to Premanand Maharaj.
Yeah, and
I
he's
mean,
also
he's
he's also been to I think one more I don't I've forgotten, I think his name. He's been there as well, because he also went to, I think, Neem Karoli Baba, as far as I
yes,
remember, right?
yes,
So somewhere you are going to learn a lot when you learn your natural psychology. So,
natural cycle.
and this is
Yeah,
our natural psychology, that we should always be in contact, or we should also always try to maintain that connect, or establish that connect which we have somewhere lost, right? And if this is possible, then I think you are going to be super happy.
right. And then, in more simple terms, without using those highly florid technical, you know, understanding of natural psychology, if anyone finds difficulty in grasping one's natural psychology, a person can do one this thing as an experiment. Whatever comes to them, which somewhere shatters him, or something which shakes him from the core, that
Hmm.
he is not able to manage, then on that particular thing he must realize that he is going against his natural psychology,
Yes.
and he is doing act out of influence rather than out of his own personal will. Two things, if properly well memorized and practiced: one, whether you are acting upon influence or out of your will. If you can do it successfully, then trust me, you can gradually, you know, thrust yourself, and especially traverse the path of, peace and tranquility. That is how you can do that.
And this may take some time, but this is
Yes,
going to happen for sure. This is
right,
guaranteed, right?
right,
So this is what we had to talk about, and I think people must have got it well, that what they should be doing in order to become happy and truly
right,
happy, and happy in real sense. We are not asking people to bring that wide grin on their faces, because this is going to be very artificial.
right,
It should come from within, and sometimes it's good to be a kid, because we know the nature of kids. They are
right,
happy for no reason, right? So if when people say that, why are you laughing so loud, so loudly, you're not a kid. So let them say, because you should be stay in that particular kind of
right,
state, because this is going to give you immense happiness, right?
right.
Let sometimes keep people aside and live
Hmm.
your life the way
Ah,
you
that's
really
it.
want, right?
Yeah,
So this is what we wanted to talk about. We will come up with the insightful conversations, right? So I'm taking a leave. I'll see you in the next video.
yeah. Good night. Bye.
Good night.